actually, sex is beautiful. It's natural. It's healthy. More than that, it's sacred. We're so repressed sexually because we're not really allowed to enjoy our sexuality freely, to express ourselves freely.
Hello again to you then.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Thank you for being on the show with me.
It's very exciting for me to share my knowledge, my expertise, and things that I am passionate about.
I was born in Kiev, but recently I did 23andMe DNA test, and it turned out that I'm almost 90% Polish.
You're
And
kidding!
yes,
That's
and
so
I think you
funny.
are Polish as far as I know.
Yeah, I
Originally,
was
you're from Poland.
born and raised in Poland, exactly. Yeah.
How growing in Poland has affected you as a person and as a tantrika in the future? How did it affect your sexual profile as well?
Mm. Well, really in a massive way, because I grew up not only in society that is pretty much suppressed sexually, but I actually grew up in a strongly Catholic family. So I had this strong religious repression around my sexuality, around my body, my pleasure, my right to pleasure, etc. So that kind of really started my journey of struggling with sex and having huge issues for so many years. I couldn't even orgasm. I couldn't even enjoy actually having sex with my partners in the past. So that was actually my own personal journey of figuring out that I need to learn for myself how to actually have great sex and how to heal that past sexual repression and trauma that it might have caused, so that I could actually enjoy sex with my partner, so that I could actually have orgasms, so I could have beautiful blissful pleasure in and feel arousal, even that kind of basic experience of actually getting aroused and getting wet and for the body to get ready for the intercourse. Even that was affected by my repressive background and by all this upbringing in a place that wasn't really embracing sex as something beautiful or natural or healthy.
Hmm. Do you think that all the problems come from childhood, the sexual ones?
Not all of them, but I find that with my clients, majority of issues start in childhood. And so all sorts of different unhealthy patterns or frustrations in the bedroom actually have an origin, in some kind of childhood wounding or hurt or trauma, or simply some kind of needs that have not been met at childhood. And so now they are being that it's like the system is trying to meet those needs through our eroticism, and that can lead to the birth of different fetishes or kinks, or actually deep wounding and frustration because we're actually unable to meet those needs without doing the proper healing first. And that is a
Hmm.
massive journey.
It's interesting that we live in such times when, I mean, porn is available everywhere, and actually the world doesn't look very religious from the side. But I remember when I was 16 or 15, and I started masturbating for the first time. I remember that I was in the company of my friends, and I told them that I was going to church to actually kind of to talk to the priest, and they asked me, I mean, what kind of sins could you have ever committed? And I said, I don't know. I said some harsh things to my parents, but I have also masturbated. And they just started laughing, and they were laughing and laughing, and they were like the first kids whoever told me, but it's kind of fine. It's okay. When I was reading your book, I was wondering how amazing it is that we live in such a world which looks not really godly, but we're affected by all the perverted things around us, the perverted
Mm,
ideas.
exactly. Well, the truth is that sex is a very natural function of the body, And it's not just a biological function, it's actually a beautiful experience for lovers, for romantic partners to have together. It's a beautiful way to express their love for each other through a sexual union. In the modern world, we turned our sex lives into something dirty or shameful or full of guilt, and awkwardness, is this kind of dirty secret, like we all do it, but let's not talk about it. So that leads to a lot of toxic ideas or issues or problems in the bedroom, definitely.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you, from the book, I learned that you have a big family. As far as I remember, you had 4 sisters or 3 sisters?
4 sisters and a brother, yeah.
It's many sisters. It's just a lot of sisters. I'm the only child in the family, so for me it would be just like a really big family. I wanted to ask you, right now, after so many years, are you still communicating with them? Do they know you as a tantric teacher, as a sex coach? Do they communicate with you on those topics?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have a very, very strong contact with my family, and I talk with them every single week, and they know exactly what I do. And they know I am a sex therapist. They know I teach Tantra. They know I run sessions and I travel with my workshops. I have written a book, etc. So yeah, they're very aware of that, and they're very supportive. I think at first, when I first told them I was getting into this line of work, there was a bit of confusion and a bit maybe of that kind of awkwardness of, you'll be doing what? But they got over it, and they have so much love and support for me, and they see just how happy I am doing it and how fulfilled I feel, and and how much I can help other people, and how much I actually have helped my family in the process as well, with their relationships and their intimacy and sex issues as well.
But have your sisters ever been to your workshops?
Not to my workshops, no, they haven't.
One thing that touched me in your book is that you are not putting yourself like you're an expert, like you're a guru that had no history of her own. You're actually telling how it all began, and all began with a trauma. You were, as far as I understood, you were almost raped by your first boyfriend. I mean, kind of, for a long time. And you're a perfect example of the healer is the one who has been healed.
Yeah.
But in the end, you also became a sex coach, right? A sex therapist, because these are slightly different things in the sense that sex therapist requires a kind of a license, being certified.
That's right, yeah.
Well, how does the work of a sex coach and a Tantra teacher differ?
Well, Tantra teacher is a person who specializes in tantric techniques, rituals, and practices, in tantric philosophy and the way it applies in the modern bedrooms. So that's actually how I started. That's how my journey started. And at first, I was basically just a teacher. I was teaching my clients in my sessions. I was showing them how to perform different tantric rituals and use tantric techniques. And I was running workshops, basically teaching what Tantra is and how to use it. But then I realized that people coming to my sessions, they needed more of a wider toolkit of, I guess, tools and techniques, because they were coming with all sorts of different sexual issues and problems. And I found that Tantra wasn't always the answer to their problems. So that's when I decided to become certified as a sexologist. And then also as a somatic counselor. So I am a Tantra teacher, I'm a sex therapist, and I'm also a counselor. And all of these things, all of these modalities really come together great in my sessions, because our sex lives are typically ridden with so much trauma and wounding and toxic beliefs and inhibitions and unhealthy patterns, etc. So just, when somebody comes to you with all that sort of issues, to sort of put just tantric practices on top of all of that can provide help and support in their sex life. But addressing those inhibitions, issues, problems, frustrations first, I find that actually creates a really powerful change. When, because when somebody presents, comes to me with with a problem, say they want to become a better lover, or they want to last longer in bed, or they want to learn how to pleasure their partner better. That's like a superficial issue, and that's easy. I can help with that, no problem. But what I pretty much always find is that underneath there is some kind of yearning, some kind of wounding, some kind of trauma that actually pushed this person into struggling in that kind of an area of their eroticism, of their sex life. So that's why I'm bringing all of these modalities together, so that I can not only teach Tantra, but I can actually support my clients in healing whatever needs healing first, so that they can actually embrace fully their sexuality and their erotic and orgasmic potential.
Quite a journey from being an accountant initially
and
then getting into an absolutely different sphere. What was the moment in your personal story that switched everything, when you understand that, yes, you're moving in the right direction? Now you have finally found something, and you're not going to ever agree with your partners on just following their agenda in sex in the bedroom. How did it happen for you?
Well, it already started. My journey started when I ended up in the emergency room as a result of having sex. Basically, that led me to having so much pain in my body, in my pelvic area, that I needed to be rushed to the emergency room, which was a very scary situation, because I was in so much pain that I actually thought I might potentially die. And so I thought, I cannot possibly have sex one more time the same way I used to up to this point. It was like I didn't even have a choice anymore. It was not an option to risk being sent to the emergency room again after having sex. So that's when I knew, okay, I need to find out how to have great sex. I need to learn. I need to train myself in having an amazing, healthy sex, so that things like that don't happen anymore. So I don't end up in pain anymore. And when I found this first Tantra workshop that I went to, that was the moment. That was the moment when I started learning about Tantra. That was the moment when my eyes opened and I realized that I had it all wrong when it comes to sex. And I finally understood why I struggled in sex in the bedroom, why I couldn't experience pleasure, why I couldn't have orgasms in the bedroom. And it just all like finally made sense. And that was the moment I understood my own body, my own sexuality, and how to develop and cultivate my erotic potential, and how to express myself sexually in a healthy way, so that I wouldn't risk pain or sexual abuse anymore. So yeah, that was 6 years ago.
Do you see any common themes for men and for women that come to you, like top 3 or top 5 problems that people come with?
Well, people who are in relationships, for them, number one issue that they bring is a loss of desire or reduced desire for sex and reduced frequency of a sexual contact. So it seems like in the beginning we have this amazing, hot, frequent sex, and then after for a few months or a year, things start to change and people just really struggle to maintain that kind of hot, passionate connection. So that's one thing. For women, big issue that I encounter very often is the struggle to orgasm. So women, even when they can actually enjoy sex and they experience arousal and pleasure during sex, many times they actually still struggle to achieve an orgasm. So that's another common thing that I get often in my sessions. When it comes to men, number one thing must be lasting longer. Men often are conditioned by the use of porn. Basically, the porn conditions their nervous system to ejaculate quickly, and so then they struggle to last as long as they want. So that can, and I totally get how that can feel disappointing when you have this beautiful, sexy evening planned and all these things you want to do together, and then things finish within a few minutes. So yeah, most men want to last longer. That's number one issue for men.
I get it. In your experience, actually, why women struggle to orgasm? what are the major reasons? I realize that the list can be like very long, but maybe just a couple of reasons where to look.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it is definitely a kind of layered, multi-dimensional issue. It's not just one thing, but things that most commonly contribute to that kind of a struggle to orgasm is inhibitions around sex that usually come from that kind of religious upbringing or social ideas around sex being wrong, guilt around touching, ourselves, enjoying pleasure, sexual pleasure, etc. Another thing is we struggle to accept our bodies, and we typically don't like our bodies. We tend to compare ourselves to the perfectly photoshopped bodies in the media, and then we look at ourselves and we go, oh, my body isn't that great. When we don't like our bodies, we start to subconsciously disconnect from our bodies, and then when you reduce, sort of numb down your bodily experience, it's really hard to really feel the fullness of the pleasure that will actually lead to an orgasm. So, body image issues. Another one is our emotional state is very strongly linked to our erotic state. So when you're with a partner and there is some kind of accumulated resentment, which happens in our relationship, especially over the years, people accumulate some kind of resentment, like little things just add up. And then we still want, like consciously, intellectually, we still want to be intimate and we still want to have sex. But underneath that, kind of more subconsciously, there's this whole layer of past resentments and these little things that we got angry or annoyed with our partner about. And so there's that kind of, underneath all of that, there's that voice that says, really? He wants to have sex with me after he did that or after she did that? So that's another one, like being aware of how is the emotional connection between people. Wow. Oh, past abuse, past trauma, past sexual wounding, any of that sort of issues. If anybody experienced any sort of sexual abuse, rape, or even, sort of milder version of uninvited sexual contact, that will affect our ability to express ourselves fully as erotic and sexual beings. And so when these kind of things go unaddressed for years, which for many people they do, that will affect our ability to orgasm.
Thank you for sharing. You openly give the names of all of your partners in the book.
Oh, I changed all of the names. So
so Jacques is not really Jacques. Okay.
No.
I thought, okay, maybe. Okay, so if he was French in the book, maybe he's actually Spanish. There is a chance for that too.
Exactly.
Okay.
I did change all of names and all the little details about them so that they couldn't be recognized, just to protect their privacy.
Of course. A question: after you actually published a book, have they come to your workshops? Have you met any of them after you became a Tantrica and a sex teacher?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them.
Did any of them come to the workshops?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, I guess the more recent ones, not the ones from years ago, because I'm not in touch with many of them anymore. Like the book starts with my partner in Poland, which we haven't been in touch in years, and as far as I know, he's still in Poland, so we wouldn't reconnect in any way. He wouldn't come to Australia.
Okay, good to know. Anyway, we slightly started talking about the orgasms, and there are several things that you mentioned in the book: the full body orgasm, and the multi-orgasmity, and actually orgasm without ejaculation for men. Can you please tell a little bit more about, for those who are just trying to touch the whole topic of Tantra and other kind of sex, not like the regular one they see in porn?
Yeah. Conventionally, we only know one type of orgasm, and that's what I would refer to as a peak orgasm or external orgasm, and that's your typical ejaculation for a man, or a clitoral orgasm for a woman. So that's typically what people know, that when they rub their genitals, or when penetration is happening, when there's that kind of friction and stimulation of the genital area, what happens is arousal is growing. We get more turned on, there's more and more sexual energy, and finally that kind of stimulation leads to a release of that sexual energy, and we call that orgasm. So there's a few seconds of that kind of intense pleasure. A man will typically ejaculate, and then we experience, so there's that peak of pleasure, and then there is a kind of like a loss of sexual energy because we've just released it all in that kind of external orgasmic response. In Tantra, there is this whole other world of orgasms that are actually more called valley orgasm as opposed to one peak. It's more of a valley orgasm, or internal orgasm, or energetic orgasm, or full body orgasm. It's all the same. All these names relate to a similar thing. Because what we do in Tantra is, instead of kind of rubbing the genitals in order to arrive at one orgasmic peak, we actually concentrate on stimulation of the body and the genitals, but on spreading and moving that arousal, that yummy, delicious sexual energy out through the whole body. So there are beautiful tantric techniques to actually allow sexual energy to move and expand through your whole system, so that the orgasms can be not just localized in the genitals, but they can be expanded through the whole body. And in that kind of an experience, it's not an external release of sexual energy, but an internal implosion of arousal and sexual energy. So when we actually learn or train our bodies to redirect sexual energy internally, so that the orgasmic release is internal, it actually keeps going and going and going, because it doesn't leave the body, it stays inside of the body, all of that beautiful energy, and it keeps moving and rippling and expanding through the whole body, which literally feels like your whole body is electric, or like tingling or vibrating, and it's such a blissful, ecstatic experience. It's like trance-like kind of orgasmic state that can last for quite a lot longer than a typical orgasm. It can last minutes or even hours in some cases. And men,
it goes for men and women, right? Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it's for both men and women. And for men, that means that they can actually orgasm without ejaculating, because orgasm and ejaculation are two separate phenomena. They just usually happen together for men. That's why most men think that orgasm and ejaculation are the same thing. They aren't. Ejaculation is the pleasurable squirting of the semen, whereas orgasm is the release of that sexual tension, that sexual energy. And when men learn to redirect sexual energy internally and move it through their body, then they can become multi-orgasmic. They can come again and again and again. And there is no refractory period because there's no ejaculation, meaning that they don't need to wait for another erection. Mm-hmm. They can become erect again and go again for as long as they want. That's how tantric men, tantric lovers, make love for hours.
Mm-hmm. A question. How long does this training take for men to change their agenda, to reprogram themselves? Because it's kind of easy to find some info on the internet, like training the PC muscle is one of the most popular ones. But people do it for a week and then nothing works, or I don't see any results actually. So how does this work in the body? How long does it take?
Everybody's different. And people actually ask me that question a lot because they want to know, like how long will it take me before I can have the full body off? Yeah, exactly. We're impatient. We want it now. And the truth is, everybody is different. And I had clients who had full body orgasms pretty much within a week of starting to work with me. Because when I give them the simple principles of Tantra and simple practices, and I direct them exactly to what they need to do, their bodies, and in some cases, are sort of naturally tantric in that way, and they just they just go into full body orgasms. So it actually happens. It's such a beautiful experience when people message me within a week from our first session and they say, wow, I've just had a full body orgasm and it was amazing. First time ever. So excited. Still can't breathe because it's just been, such a mind-blowing experience. But that's not a typical experience. I'd say typically it is more of at least like a 6 months process for many people. But because what needs to happen is the whole nervous system needs to be retrained in terms of treating sexual energy differently and moving it differently in the body. And that for many people can take a good few months. Yeah.
Of daily practices.
Or almost daily. So, like it's the more often, obviously, the person practices, the quicker the result they'll get. But, if sometimes they skip a day or two, it's not going to be a big deal. And yeah, but that daily practice is really powerful in retraining the nervous system and changing the sexual response.
Last year, I actually went through your Udemy course, and I've heard about the PC muscle and about the practice with the PC muscle before, but I really enjoy, and I advise actually everyone to check your course, because you give it very clearly and in a very precise way. One thing I wanted to ask you about it is that when I, as a man, obviously if someone still doesn't know, do this, at a certain moment when I train the PC muscle, the testicles, there can be like tension or pain, or some pain even getting like in the area in around the anus. Can you please explain why and what to do in those situations?
That sexual tension, it can be actually experienced as pain or discomfort, particularly in the testicles. And what that means is that your body is still not very efficient at moving and circulating sexual energy. And that's perfectly normal. That's exactly what happens in the beginning. Your body doesn't know any different than to hold sexual energy in one spot in your genitals. And that's kind of where the whole retraining needs to happen. But if that's what you experience, that kind of tension or discomfort in the testicles or in the pelvic area, then I'd say allow the body what it needs. So if it needs that release, then ejaculate. It's not healthy to kind of torture the body if it's still not doing great in circulating sexual energy. But at the same time, keep up the practice and daily do the breathing, do the muscle work with the PC muscle, work with the visualization, keep moving sexual energy out through the body, and the body will actually get it and will become easier and easier and easier to retrain it, so that instead of holding that tension in the genitals and causing discomfort, your body will become like really, really efficient at moving and expanding sexual pleasure. So that then actually there comes a moment where you don't even feel the need to ejaculate anymore, because the body is so good at circulating sexual energy. That's a beautiful experience, because that is such a proof of this work. And that is such a nurturing experience for the body to have, as opposed to that kind of draining experience of ejaculating sexual energy externally.
One more question. In the book, you share about the anus, and the anus, like not really, it's not really like anal, or maybe it can be called when we talk about men, but still you share that the anus area has almost kind of magical properties, in the sense that men hold a lot there, most definitely women too. Yeah. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Well, first of all, anus is a magical place because it's one of the most sensitive spots on the whole body. We have so many nerve endings on the anal opening, and it makes the anus very receptive to pleasure, which means we can experience mind-blowing pleasure from anal stimulation, either external or internal. It doesn't have to be internal. Even external pleasure can be extremely pleasurable. But we don't consider, like typically people don't consider the anus a valid area to play with. It's considered, you know, this dirty, again, shameful place in the body. Don't go there. That's where, you know, we use it to go to the toilet. So, you know, it's almost like disrespected in this way, you know. And it's hard to have a
Humiliated
beautiful,
anyway.
yeah, and it's really hard to have beautiful ecstatic experiences with a body part that you hold so much shame around. And for men, this is even stronger than for women, because it's not just the shame around the cleanliness of the anus. It's more than that. It's actually all this fear around potentially being gay, because you might enjoy pleasure in the anus. And there's still so much, unfortunately, so much stigma in the relationship, in the society around gay people. And men are, you know, even though gay people are accepted in society, men are still afraid to be perceived as gay. Straight men still feel all this like shock and, you know, discomfort around somebody potentially thinking that they might be gay. You know, like a reaction is, it's so strong. No, I'm not gay, you know, I like women. Well, that's okay, that's fine. Nothing wrong with being gay, but that also means that men typically hold tension in their anuses. One part of it is the whole kind of fear and discomfort around being sort of having an open, relaxed anus, maybe even swaying the hips, you know, allowing for the whole pelvis to move and flow. This is perceived as, you know, as a gay kind of behavior. So men typically lock their pelvises, you know, they hold their anuses tight, and a lot of men spend a lot of time sitting down. The sedentary lifestyle is responsible for an added level of tension in the anus. So there's just tension on top of tension, and that causes numbness. And then we're just shutting ourselves off of that beautiful part of the body that can give us so much pleasure, and we just don't go there, or we're even unable to go there because of the shame, tension, or trauma around the anus.
Mm-hmm. You also just mentioned gay people. I wanted to ask you whether Tantra works for gay people, for gay men in particular.
Definitely, because Tantra works with energetics, and that Tantra works with the polarity, moving energy between people, connecting energetically, you know, energetic lovemaking, etc. And it's all work with energy, meaning we're moving energy between the masculine and the feminine poles and polarity between two people. Now, the masculine and the feminine, when I say masculine and feminine, I am not referring to genders, I'm actually referring to energies. Every single person has both masculine and feminine energies within them, masculine and feminine qualities. We all do. So what kind of makes us who we are is the certain balance of those energies, meaning most men are predominantly masculine, have predominantly masculine energy. Most women have predominantly feminine energy. But that's not always the case. There are very masculine women who are more kind of career driven and don't really want to stay at home and have babies and care for others, and, you know, and make their household pretty and pink and comfortable, which is kind of feminine, but they're more into careers and being driven, etc. And there are men who are very masculine, but also men who are quite feminine, who are artistic, you know, and who don't care so much about being that strongly driven provider. They, you know, they enjoy more about caring for other people or about their creative expression, etc. So these are just energies we work with. And when it comes to gay couples, people can actually play with those energies and play with wherever the feminine and the masculine energies are more strongly placed in their bodies. People can also switch those polarities and work with, you know, if they kind of most identify as a masculine kind of person, they can actually take on a feminine polarity and move energy between the two of them in that sort of a way. So it's, without going into very, you know, a lot of different details about this, Tantra works with energy, and any couple, regardless of their preferences or who is involved in a couple, can play with Tantra and Tantric practices.
This is great news. I mean, it works for everyone, which is great news. So there is no limit to anyone.
Mm.
I guess in a way I should have started with this question, but maybe now is also a good moment. After years of practicing Tantra, what is Tantra for you? Why would people need, I mean, multi-orgasmity definitely is a great attraction, something everyone should go for, but are there any other reasons behind it?
Okay, well, Tantra is a philosophy. So we tend to associate Tantra with sex, but that's not really correct. Tantra in itself is actually a philosophy that comes from ancient India and that embraces every single aspect of life as sacred, special, and beautiful. And one of the biggest, I guess, principles of Tantra is mindfulness or presence, being right here, right now. And in the modern world, we glorify multitasking. So we need to be doing 5 things at least at the same time, all the time, which means that we're not doing any of them right or not giving anything really full attention. So that's in Tantra, that doesn't happen. Whatever we do, whether we are having a cup of coffee or talking to someone or reading a book or going for a walk or making love, we are fully in the moment. We are fully right here, right now, in our bodies, with the person we're doing it with, if there's somebody else there, or just in our own body, fully connected, fully embodied. That's Tantra. Another beautiful aspect of it is that celebration of every aspect of life, of everything that we're doing. So that's why we use rituals in Tantra in the bedroom to ritualize lovemaking, because as soon as you ritualize something, meaning there's some set of practices that come together to create this experience, you actually give that activity, or sex in this case, a deeper, more special, more sacred meaning. When you ritualize anything, you infuse it with deep, sacred, meaningful intention. And that's actually that's why in modern society, we resonate so strongly or respond so strongly to this tantric aspect in our sexuality, because we're so repressed sexually, because we're not really allowed to enjoy our sexuality freely, to express ourselves freely. Yeah, we can do certain things out in our own bedrooms, but there isn't that kind of wider permission for us to just be sexual as human beings, especially people that have certain position of authority in the society. If they start talking about their sex lives and how much they enjoy their orgasms, even if it's with their own spouse, they're considered perverts. It's seriously twisted. So here, and we've been through Victorian era, and we have just so many unhealthy and toxic ideas about our sexuality. So here comes Tantra that says, actually, sex is beautiful. It's natural. It's healthy. More than that, it's sacred. So that's why I find that Tantra is so healing when it comes to our sexuality. That's why, even though I know that Tantra in itself isn't purely about sex, I use it so much as a therapist, as a practitioner, because it brings so much into our sex lives. It affects completely our sex lives in such powerful ways that it can heal a lot of negative stuff and frustration, and actually take our sex life this next level where we bring together sexuality and spirituality, and where we create these more deeper, more meaningful, more loving, more connected, more embodied, more orgasmic sexual experiences.
2 last questions. They're short. They're very short. Can you please give some advice to young parents who have kids? For example, I have a daughter. I have a 3.5 year daughter, and I'm trying to be as conscious as I can be. I'm doing my best to be a meditative parent, not to leave any traces on my daughter's future life with her future partner and her future sex life. but can you give just some general guidance for young parents?
Yeah. Well, first of all, being relaxed and accepting around your own sexuality, that is huge, because your child is gonna pick up on it. And the way it manifests is that, you know, for example, when I was a child, whenever there was a sex scene on the movie, like on the movie that I was watching with my family, my parents would automatically like tense up, and there would be this uncomfortable tension in the room. And for me as a child, I didn't really know that much about sex, but I was already picking up that there's something really wrong and horrible with the sex thing, that everybody, you know, makes everybody uncomfortable, and nobody even talks about. Like, you know, our parents wouldn't even talk to us about it later. So first of all, embracing sex in your own life is actually something that is beautiful, healthy, and natural, because your child will pick up on that. And second of all, whenever they start asking questions about sex, about touching themselves, about their genitals, about their naked bodies, etc., that's when they're ready for answers. And that's when, very gently, in a language that's appropriate for a child, is the right time to start giving them those answers, and telling them how, you know, it's okay to enjoy the pleasure in your body. It's okay to touch your body for pleasure. It's probably best to do it in the privacy of your own bedroom, not in the middle of the dining room during a family function. So giving them a bit of an, you know, like guidance here is good. But I feel like when you don't shut down around this kind of questions, your kids will be much more open to actually coming to you with questions, as opposed to considering you this, you know, uncool parent that they can never talk to about sex. So they're just gonna go and talk to their friends in school, or, you know, whoever else, or just go online and look for sex information online. Being supportive and warm and caring around these questions, and how you address them and how you answer them, is really going to inform your child's sex life in the future.
Thank you, Helena. I strongly advise all the listeners to also read your book, The Legendary Lover. How my listeners can learn more about you and your work and get to know you better?
Well, the best place to find me is my website, helenanista.com. I am also quite active on social media, on Facebook. Everywhere the hashtag is Helena Nista. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. So for people who, you know, enjoy more videos, like information and articles, more in a vlog form, in a video form, then I have a YouTube channel also under the name Helena Nista. I also have my online courses. So that's actually a great resource for people who are all over the world and who can't see me for a session. My online courses, there's so much information there, because the way they started, it was that I kept answering same questions in my private sessions. So people would come to me with, you know, and the same questions would come up again. That's why I thought, instead of answering them all the time, I should turn them into an online course. And so the kind of things that people want to know about great sex and Tantra and being orgasmic and cultivating their sexual orgasmic potential, I answer a lot of those questions and give very practical tools and exercises in my online courses. And the book is a great resource. There's so much information there, so many practices, and so many sexy, amazing stories from my life and from my clients' cases. Yeah,
it's true. This I can confirm. This I can confirm as well from my side. Helena, thank you so much for your time today and for giving so many golden nuggets to me and to the listeners as well. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.